Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to our INBODY Q&A. And hello there, Steph.
Hi, Laura. Good to see you.
Yeah, always good to see you as well. This is a good one. Let's see where this one takes us. I'm going to
Okay.
read this question out without further ado. So this is, how can I keep green zones more consistent? I'll work through the process and things go well for a bit, but then I feel weighed down again. So how can I get out of repeating patterns? Repeating patterns. Maybe it's good to start with what we think a repeating pattern is, and then we can maybe go from there.
Sure.
Hmm. I think for me, I think about whammies when I think about repeating patterns. And I kind of think about how the whammy is sort of the actor, sort of doing the enactment of something that is like a cycle, like a series of activities, a series of behaviors that we kind of get stuck in, we get caught in. Um, I can give an example. Happy to give an example. So, something for me is I notice that with my this one particular repeating pattern, this is about me trying to manage my stress levels. And so what happens is I might start to feel a little elevation. I might just start to feel a little bit edgy. And so what I notice I often do is I will go online and shop and buy something. Full confession. Um, And this is something that I've noticed happening and occurring quite a lot over the years. It's just a very particular repeating sort of set of behaviors that I have. And I notice that this is about stress management. This is about coping. This is about how I get by. And do I like it? Not necessarily, because a repeating pattern can be healthy or it can be not serving us. And I would say this does not serve my bank account. But, you know, yeah, I'm going to pass over to you. Like, what are your thoughts around these repeating patterns?
Well, so for me, when I think about repeating pattern, I think about, what the whoever asked this question around, I'm in the green zone and then I'm inconsistent. And I'm in the green zone. So what is that? You're going green to red and green to red. And what I'm hearing behind that question is, I don't like that. I don't like having to keep tipping down into that. And so when I think of repeating patterns, I think of this is another call to go deeper. Yeah. So as you're starting to work with Embody and laying that foundation down, when you get to repeating patterns, so as you said, these are the whammies that have been there for a very long time. And so, what are they doing? Remember, they're just trying to keep us safe. And so, the mechanism that we have been patterned into is maybe a bit dysregulated or not serving us or potentially negative in some way. But remember, we want to have compassion for the fact that our system is magical and it was trying to protect us from some or wound that we had. And so typically, when we look at these long term repeating patterns, it goes back to this core wound, typically around I'm not lovable, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm not enough, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I'm a bad person. All of these kind of start to live underneath this repeating pattern, which is why it's so hard to work with because this is a really um, deep-seated pattern. So that's the first thing I want to share. And the second thing I want to share is that this is a very normal thing. Every single one of us on this planet has repeating patterns. And this is, again, that call to do some deeper work, whether it's alone or with another professional to help you get to that other side and integrate in a more healthy way. So I just want to say that kind of like on the high level. And just to give an example for me in a repeating pattern, you were talking about stress. I'm going to use the word overwhelm. When I tend to experience a sense of overwhelm, whether it's I have too much to do or maybe too stimulating of an environment, I always use the word rev. So I almost like speed up and I start to do things faster, or I'll speak faster, or I behave faster. Or the opposite, if it goes too much into overwhelm, then I go to Netflix and I'm like, oh, let me watch another episode and another. And I just need to like almost like shut down for a bit and distract myself. So that's kind of where, in terms of a repeating pattern and just understanding the almost the grander nature of a repeating pattern and how it's normal, and also that it is normal. Remember that we go in the green zone and the red zone and the green zone and the red zone. It's how to ride that wave. So, um, in order to almost, I guess, get that motivation to say, oh, okay, this is a little bit of a bigger challenge. Remember, go back to your motivation, or why are you doing this work in the first place? So connect to your why. Are you doing this work so that you feel more vibrant in life, or more joy, or more balance, or deeper connections? So if you can connect back to your why, this is where you're going to start to work with and connect more deeply into your wisdom self so that you can start doing this kind of work. So I'll stop there and see where you want to take this.
Yeah. And so, as you're speaking about, that's exactly it. So you'll know when we're not operating at our best self, right? And so that's when the whammies are at play. And that's when there might be a repeating cycle. There might be, I look at it as the grooves on a record, or like if you think about a really well worn path that you might walk in the woods or something, there's heavy tracks being laid down. And this is it with this conditioning, with this, it's a habit. So these repeating cycles, these repeating patterns, they are habitual. So how do we break free of them? How do we short circuit this? What do we do? And I suppose the thing that comes up for me is about, a circuit breaker. So in NLP, they talk about a pattern interrupt. And, this is something that it's there in the INBODY program. And actually, you and I were talking about this the other day, is like, what do we use to kind of pattern interrupt stuff? So with my super shopper whammy, with that particular cycle that I can get into, what do I need to do? Well, I literally sometimes have to force myself to back away from my phone or from my laptop, right? Like I have to just take it out of my hands. Another thing that I will do is I will ask myself a question. I will say, who's here now? Who's driving? Who's in the driver's seat? Who's in charge right now? Because I can feel that it's not my best self. So we're looking here for something short and sharp. It could be movement. It could be a question that we ask. And yeah, this just feels really important to do some kind of pattern interrupt, because otherwise we will just continue on down the cycle, move further into the reds, and yeah, a little bit further away from our wisdom self.
Yeah, exactly. So the key thing here is all about awareness. Yeah, so we need a little bit of awareness to go, okay, I'm going to consciously and intentionally, excuse me, look for ways that I can interrupt. And so for me, I always ask, am I in my wisdom self right now? Am I aligned in my mind and body? And if the answer is no, then I need to do a little work, grounding, breathing, excuse me, looking outside at the horizon, something to help take whatever emotion I'm feeling and dial it down a notch. Because you can't then go into the other side. You can't inquire, you can't understand until you start to go, oh, okay, I'm aware. Let me do something in my body to show my body that the here and now is safe and I can do some investigation.
Yes, I love that. And as you were saying that just now, it made me think about the idea of dual awareness. and about our witness self. And it's that our very natural human ability to observe ourself. And it's like this is also what I feel we're really looking for, as you were saying, awareness. I was like, yes, it's that idea that we can both be, I don't know, it's kind of like almost my wisdom self is the driving instructor, and my whammy is in the driver's seat, and the wisdom self is like letting the whammy drive, but then sometimes that's never a good idea. If it's driving for too long, it's not good. Like I don't want my whammy to be taking me down a path where I know where it leads. This is that thing about a repeating pattern. We know where it goes.
Yep.
And so it's like, yeah, put the brakes on, pump in the brakes. But we need to have that witness self, because we need to be able to kind of identify what's going on first. So it's like identifying the trigger. Well, what triggered this? What was it? Was it a conversation I had that didn't go well? Was it some bad news that I got? Did I just wake up in a bad mood? Like what's my trigger here? Because that can help start to bring our wisdom self a little bit more closer back online.
Yeah, exactly. So, once you do this interrupt that Laura, that you just mentioned, Laura, we're now going to be identifying. So, other examples, did I just go on social and I noticed something happen? Did I watch something on TV? Did I just get an email? Am I just walking and a thought popped in? So really we encourage you to start to take note of all the different events and stimuli that happen that seem to trigger the same pattern. So it's kind of that's first step. Again, it goes back to the awareness. Then once you start identifying the triggers, then you can deepen further and investigate. So now you're going to be asking all sorts of questions like, okay, so what thoughts are now coming in now that I just had this conversation with a friend, and I don't know, she told me her partner's taking her away on vacation as a surprise. And then all of a sudden I'm happy, and then maybe I'm not happy. And okay, well, what thought just came in? Well, my partner doesn't do that with me. Or, then what sensation do I start to notice? I start to feel closed, or I start to judge myself, or maybe I start to criticize where they're going. You want to start to recognize what is happening in your thoughts, in your sensations in your body, the kind of feelings you're having. Are you feeling guilty, frustrated, angry, ashamed? And then what actions do you end up doing? Do you then go home and you're a little snarky to your partner for no reason? Or do you go home and start Googling trips for yourself? Or do you, I don't know, start to tap into your perfectionism abilities and try to do something really well to prove yourself to your job that you're really smart and that you're worth it? So there's lots of things to start investigating once you start to identify the trigger.
Yeah, love that. Love that. It's taking me to our step of discuss. It really kind of takes me right in there about this investigation. It's like, how do we build a bridge? Because if we're working with a really long-standing, difficult, habitual pattern, right? Something that's kind of hard baked in. We're looking for the neuroplasticity here. And how do we get that? And it's like we got to build a bridge somehow to a new kind of way, right? So it's a bridge to it's not the same old thing that you're doing. It's to cross to a different side and operate in a different way and feel a different way about a situation. So like you were saying, do you blame your partner? And I'd be like, yes. But is he going to get it later, right? I've done this before. I'm a little ashamed to say. And really it's kind of like, okay, but what will it take? And that might be a power question then, right? And so here we come in to discuss where it's so important to have a conversation with ourself. And it might be you're having a conversation with your whammy. It might be, and then you're trying to bring in your wisdom self. right? So you're trying to bring all of these parts of you together to have a conversation that I really feel like the bridge can be a power question. So, what is it going to take for me to do something different? What quality do I need to look for right now? Because what we're talking about is how do I not go with my impulse? And impulse and reactivity, ooh, those are not easy to break.
Yeah, good. Fantastic. Again, the awareness of how do I break that automatic pilot and how do I go to the other side? So, again, just kind of going through the steps. We've done an interrupt. We did that pattern interrupt with movement or a question. We've identified. So, you've identified the trigger and starting to recognize what events or what stimuli create a mismatch in your mind and body. Now, then you're investigating with different questions and understanding kind of the full pattern. So, from the dysregulation in your mind and body, then creates emotions, feelings, sensations, and then behaviors that you're doing. And now we're kind of in this initiated phase of what you just said of crossing the bridge. And so, for me, one of the most important things when you initiate a change, you're looking for something different, is jumping on that kindness train. Yeah, we have to go into this with self compassion, a gentle, light touch, and a curious, open mind. Because when we start to do this deeper work, we can sometimes feel a little bit more heightened sensation, heightened emotion, because again, this is something that's a repeated core wound that we're now bringing up to the surface. So, being kind, being gentle, remember the whammy's not there to destroy you, it's trying to protect you. It's just doing it in a not the best nourishing way that we could do it. So, that combined with what you just said, these questions of, what if I gave myself permission to feel differently right now? Even that question, ah, what do you notice happens in your body? Oh, what if I gave myself permission to choose a different way to react? Oh, when I even ask the question, I can feel my own body. I haven't brought up an example, but I can just feel this. Oh, that feels nicer. And that's what we're looking for. Remember, when we start to calm or relax, that's the gateway and the window to go more into the green zone to access your wisdom self so it can come out and make different choices. So, as you said, in the discuss, you start to discuss and ask yourself different questions. And then you're going into the why. You're choosing. What do I choose? Now that I've had this really open ended, non judgmental conversation, what do I choose right now? Yeah. And then celebrate and take the time to acknowledge that you just did this work. This is again, or you may have to also go in and go back to the O step. Ah, even though I notice this whammy is really difficult, I choose to be kind to myself right now. Yeah, so again, yet another way to just see how you can use that INBODY filter to cross to the other side.
Yes, there's something about what you were saying around employing this light touch. You do not want to hold it like this. And you also, I mean, I really believe this. Like, if you're beating up your whammy, you're beating up yourself. It's just not, it's maybe not the best way. It's a way, and we all get stuck in it. I mean, this is what we're talking about today is like the human condition. This is so universal that we have core wounds. It's universal that we have repeating patterns. No one doesn't. We all have it. It's just really having that light touch around it and investigating with a curiosity and openness, like you were saying, instead of that intensity. And that can even be the question: what if I took the pressure off? What if I
Beautiful.
took the pressure off trying to be, you fill in the blank, perfect, peaceful, amazing? Like, what if I took the pressure off? And so there's, oh, I can breathe again. There's more space in the room, there's more space in yourself.
Exactly. And so what you're doing here, you're building a muscle. You have this whole process, you're cultivating, you're building the muscle, going back to how can I master myself even more? And when you get to this point of, hey, I keep recognizing I'm going green, I'm doing really well, and then I keep tipping back. Don't be afraid of the tipping back. That's your opportunity to go a little further and investigate. And so over time, what will happen is that repeating pattern will dim over time. And I encourage everybody and invite everybody just to witness the time you take to do this and the little choices you make over, like to notice, hey, I just chose differently there. Oh, normally I would have done this behavior and I stopped myself. Normally I would have gone right onto Instagram to doom scroll and wow, I actually put my phone in another room and I went to pick up a book or I went for a walk or I just sat in the uncomfortability of anxiety. And I wanted to show myself that I can do that and be okay, whatever it is. Yeah, little by little.
Yes, I love that. So what we're looking for is that little bit of breathing room. This is what neuroplasticity is, but it's the small. So never forget the yes, because that's those small micro movements, but that builds momentum. And so it's just important to, I think, no matter what you do in Embody, if you were doing any part of this practice, I think it's always important to always do the yes. And especially if you're working with patterns like this and that deep set, difficult, challenging stuff.
Yeah, acknowledge what you're doing.
Yeah,
So we hope that this was helpful. It was a really great question. Thank you, whoever brought that forward. And we hope this is helpful. So we look forward to seeing everybody again soon. So thank
that's
you.
right. Go well, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Laura.